of shadows.
Hi my angels, it's Hailey Reese, and for today's video we are going to be diving into a case that I have wanted to talk about with you guys for quite some time now, and that is the case of Edward Mordrake. Before I dive into the case, I'm going to address the elephant in the room here, and that is, yes, I made the decision to go for shorter hair for the summer. I've wanted to do it for quite some time now. I kind of have this thing where whenever I have long hair, I want my short hair back, and whenever I have short hair, I want to grow my hair long again. So right now for the summer, I have decided to rock some shorter hair. But now that that's out of the way, I really want to dive into this case with you guys because it is very interesting, but also incredibly controversial, and there's a lot of skepticism surrounding the case. Edward Mordrake is a man thought to have been born with two faces, a normal face on the front of his head and what he described to be a demon face on the back of his head. I'm sure at some point you guys would have seen this particular picture circulating, which is the most popular way of people learning about Edward Mordrake. So today I thought we'd dive into this specific case and see whether or not he really existed, what exactly that image is, and where this whole entire story and theory originated from. So the tale of Edward Mordrake's life actually has been told so many times throughout the years that modern day researchers have a difficult time pinpointing an actual date of birth or an actual date of death. The first accounts of Edward Mordrake's existence actually came from some questionable sources. Now, accounts of Edward's existence actually dates back to the 19th century in an 1895 article by US journalist Charles Lowton Hildreth. Now, he was actually a popular author of science fiction and short stories, but unlike his sci-fi stories or even his horror stories, this story was actually different because it was claimed to have been based on fact rather than fiction, claiming that he was a real person. Although it was already around this time that many people started to believe that perhaps this story may be nothing more than a hoax. The story was actually picked up a year later from a medical encyclopedia, Anomalies and Curiosities of Medicine. Now that was actually in 1896, and that account was actually copied from Hildreth's work, although he was credited as a lay source. Now, there's actually no records to support the fact that Edward was a real person. In fact, that image that we've all seen widely circulated is nothing more than believed to be wax models, as Edward would have existed prior to cameras, so there would have been no way to have gained a picture of him, although many believe that that figure was based off of Edward and the life that he had lived. Unfortunately, Charles Hildreth actually didn't live to see the success of his creation, as he would pass away at the very young age of 39 in August of 1896, which would mean that he passed away before the publication of Anomalies and Curiosities of Medicine. But while many people actually believe that the story of Edward to be a hoax, there are plenty of people who believe there is substantial evidence, even though there's not substantial or any at all records of him, and there's many that believe that he truly was a real person who had experienced this. And so the story of Edward Mordrake goes. It's actually believed that in the 1800s, Edward Mordrake was the heir to one of the noblest families in England. He was believed to be charming and actually quite handsome when viewed from the front, because on the back of his head, he had another face that was twisted with evil. What made this face all the more evil was that while nobody other than Edward heard it speak, when Edward would cry, the face would smile, a sinister smile. But when Edward would laugh or be happy, the face would appear angry and snarling. It's said that the eyes of this second face would follow whomever was looking at it, and its mouth would gibber without ceasing. Like I mentioned, nobody else ever heard this second face speak, but Edward claimed that it was a devil face on the back of his head, and that this face would keep him up at night whispering things, such things as they only speak of in hell. It's actually believed that Edward lived in complete isolation and felt as though the best thing for his existence was to stay isolated from everybody, even including his family members. And it said that at times he would beg doctors to remove this evil face, as the things that it whispered were so horrible, and he was sure the face was that of the devil. It was believed that after hearing the things that this face would say to him and having to live in such isolation, that Edward went mad and actually took his own life at the age of 23, leaving behind a note ordering that that devil face was to be destroyed after his death, lest it continue its dreadful whisperings in my grave. And then he requested that he was to be laid to rest at a waste place with not so much as a stone to mark his grave. Though they didn't have a medical term for it back when Edward Mordrake was alive, it's actually believed that he had a condition or disorder where parts of the face were duplicated on the head. There's actually a name for this as well, and in modern medicine, many of people actually have suffered from such. People do get it in modern day, however, it's incredibly rare, and this disorder is actually very dangerous as well. So if this is a true tale, it's very interesting to medicine that somebody in the 19th century could have this disorder and live to be 23 years old. The closest example to this particular case is that of an Indian child named Lali, who actually lived a relatively normal life for several months before sadly passing away. There's also cases where a parasitic twin head with an undeveloped body could be attached to the head and body of the other twin, or rather a developed twin. So in essence, a twin head with a underdeveloped body could attach to that of a developed twin. An example of this is actually a man named Chang, who was discovered in China in the late 70s or 80s and was actually brought to America to have the face surgically removed. And like I said, that was in the late 70s, early 80s. The operation was actually considered to be successful for him, and Chang went back to China and was said to have lived a healthy, normal life without his devil face. In 1958, folklorist Paul Brewster actually claimed, and I quote, "If this is a genuine case, there should be authoritative sources for it." Now, American Horror Story actually brought on more popularity to the case of Edward Mordrake, but to this day, nobody really knows as to whether or not he truly existed, whether or not he did have a devil face on the back of his head, and if his story is true or not. Nonetheless, I thought that it would be interesting to kind of dive into the history of Edward Mordrake and discuss with you guys the possible theories, the possible scientific explanations, and the fact that there are many people who believe it to be nothing more than a hoax. But that is where I encourage you guys to let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of Edward Mordrake? Do you think that he in fact existed and that this is a true tale? Or do you think it's nothing more than a hoax or an urban legend? Let me know in the comments below, because I absolutely love nothing more than to hear from you guys what it is that you guys think. And that is it for today's video. If you guys are new to my channel, or you are just not yet subscribed, but you do enjoy my videos, please, please, please go ahead and click that subscribe button, and make sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it, because I super appreciate seeing that you guys enjoy these videos. And that is it for today's video. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, I love you guys.